Hey, creative souls, writers, word witches, I am so happy that you've tuned in. Thank you for being here. In this video, I'll be talking about the full moon lunar eclipse in Virgo and the upcoming Mercury retrograde and how it can all benefit and influence your writing practice. So there's a lot going on. Once again, I've consulted Kelly at Kelly's Astrology for part of this video, as well as a book by Yasmin Boland and Kim Farnell, simply called the Mercury Retrograde book. All right, so I will put links to Kelly's channel and video in the description, along with the title of the book. For those of you who are new to my channel, my name is Johnny. I'm a retired adjunct writing professor. And these days I call myself a word witch. I have been helping people work magic on the page for well over 20 years now. I believe I'm on this earth to heal the world through stories, whether the ones that I write and tell or the ones that I help you write and tell. So I appreciate your likes, shares, and subscribes, as well as your comments, because it all helps me grow here on YouTube, and that's the goal, right? I truly am invested in making a space for a community of like-minded creatives who embrace the power of story to heal. All right, so let's get started on this interesting upcoming full moon eclipse in Virgo. In my part of the world, I'm in the Northern Hemisphere on the West Coast in the US. It's happening late on March 13th and then into early March 14th. So it's a total eclipse, and this happens when the Earth is directly between the sun and the moon. So the Earth passes directly through them. And during that moment, when it is right in between the two, it can give the moon this kind of red-orange hue. So it's sometimes called a blood moon. So how ominous, right? But it's gorgeous. It's absolutely beautiful when it happens. And when you can see it. I live in a place that is often cloudy during the winter months. And so I miss a lot of these really gorgeous celestial occurrences, which is one reason why I am going to move, because I need to lay my eyes on these, even though I know that I am still impacted by them, even though I know I can still benefit from their energy. I really need to lay my eyes on them. Before we get into the details, keep in mind that this full moon kicks off a long eclipse cycle in Virgo that will last for 2 years. All right? So there will be eclipses in other signs within the next 2 years, of course, but this is the first in a series, many of which will be in Virgo. So that means Virgo-themed issues will be front and center, okay? So in short, this is about being practical and analytical, sometimes perfectionistic. I've also heard that a not so uncommon Virgo trait is to hide mistakes out of fear that others will know because they hold themselves to such high standards. So I've known Virgos and I kind of feel for them. I mean, I have not appreciated when their perfectionism is directed at me because I am not perfect. I don't try to be. I love being a messy, authentic human, and I like to enjoy life as much as I can. But I also have seen when they direct it at themselves, and it kind of breaks my heart. And so if you're a Virgo, please love yourself. Be nice to yourself. All right. So I'll talk more in a minute about how all of this comes into play with the full moon eclipse. Not only is this the beginning of a long Virgo eclipse cycle during the month of March, the outer planet of Neptune will change signs near the end of the month. All right, so more about that when the time comes. And Mercury is going retrograde the day after this eclipse. And don't forget that we started this month off with Venus going retrograde. So get ready, expect a lot of twisting and turning, and you might feel all over the place in your writing practice, all over the place with life. And so that impacts your writing practice, right? Maybe within your practice, you might feel that you can't settle in and get much work done. So there might be delays and adjustments, reevaluations, and even reversals. You or someone else might change your mind about something. And that's okay to do. Maybe you think that you found an agent for your novel and then you get more information and you decide to cool it with that person. But as Kelly says, this all comes with a nudge toward a big, bright new dream. Okay, so keep that in mind. Regardless of what might happen over the next few days, next couple of weeks, next 6 weeks, it's all about what lies beyond that. There will also, at the end of the month, which again, I will get to when the time comes, but there will also be a partial solar eclipse at the end of March, which will be less dramatic than this eclipse. So that's a good thing. Kelly shares some eclipse essentials. All right. So keep these things in mind. Eclipses create a particular period of time. So 2 times per year for about 5 weeks each. These are known as eclipse seasons. This current eclipse season started in early March, and it will extend through April 25th. All right, so anything during that time will be within this eclipse period. So everything might feel a bit wobbly and up in the air, might not go as smoothly or as organized as usual. I don't know about you, but I don't feel like anything has been smooth or organized for me for quite a while. So I don't know if that's something particular to my chart or if it's in the collective. I don't know what that is, but I've kind of gotten used to life feeling wobbly. Eclipses also offer a break in the usual. Patterns get disrupted, which can be helpful or unsettling depending on the pattern and how it serves you or doesn't. If they come along and break a bad pattern, like letting bad habits, addictions, or other humans interfere with your writing practice, that's a good thing. I talk a lot about how other humans are quite possibly the greatest interference that we have as writers. And then I talk a lot about, like I said here, like breaking a bad habit. I'm not suggesting ever that you cut people out of your life unless they're harming you, right? I hope that you do if they are harming you. Because if you're a writer, to me, that says you're a sensitive soul and you need to take care of your sensitive self. If you have kids, though, for example, or if you have, I talk about this some, if you have an aging parent who is living with you for whatever reason, I'm not saying that you need to neglect them. What I'm talking about is patterns around the way that they are involved in your life that might be disrupting your writing practice because you deserve to write. You just do. So whatever patterns you notice in your life that might be getting disrupted during this time, just expect that your usual rhythm or routines might be a bit off, okay? So how to deal with that? Well, you give yourself grace and you be open and flexible with yourself and with others. So I mentioned in a past video how my feline buddy Iris, we were in and out of the ER for a 2-week period, and she had a couple of surgeries all at the same time. And she's still on the mend. She had a big gaping wound in the back of her neck that had to be left open. And so that is still healing up. And now she has conjunctivitis because she's a kitty with a chronic illness. And so, you can bet that that all disrupted my writing practice. That's not her fault. So give your animals, give your people grace when they have a real need. But if they have this repetitive habit of interfering, find ways to deal with that. You know how I talk about in the planning part of conjuring and nurturing a writing practice in my Alchemy writing course? Oh, wait, what? You don't know about it? Okay, let me tell you. It's a course I created to help you create a solid foundation for a writing practice that will serve you for life. And just real quick, I will tell you and buy it for $188, or you can get it for free when you join the Alchemy of Writing membership group. And I'll put links to all of that and more in the description. The first keystone of the course is all about this very thing that we'll be facing with this full moon lunar eclipse and what I was just talking about. What to do when life throws curveballs and disrupts your practice. It's all about having backup plans in place. So do you have backup plans in place to make up for disruptions to your practice? And this means if you plan to write every Thursday afternoon from 12 to 5 and something interferes with that, do you just go, too bad, didn't get to write today? Or do you find a way to make up those 5 hours? That is the first keystone. The other 3, it's packed with a ton of stuff that will help you establish a solid writing practice. So if you want a glimpse into what I'm talking about, you can get the free first steps, how to conjure and nurture your writing practice. Link in the description for that as well, and it's a distillation of the full course. So it's a little flavor of what you'll get. Be prepared to switch up your schedule, but do what you can to not let your practice go by the wayside because it can be really hard to get the flow going again. I know for myself, and I've seen this with others, when I'm in the groove, nothing can stop me. And then if I have a disruption, it can take me, I hate to say this, sometimes months to get back. Not so much with my writing, but my fitness regimen, all right? I had COVID back in August. I'm so embarrassed to say I'm just now getting back to my workouts the way that I had done them in the past. And I don't know, part of that's my brain wiring, the way it works. Part of it, I don't know. I don't know what it is. So as I mentioned earlier, this is the start of a 2-year period of Virgo eclipses. So expect some shape shifting happening. which I love. I love it. Not always easy or comfortable, but so luscious. It really is. Change is good. Reinventing ourselves is a good thing. Get ready for a process of release. To get clear about how this might impact you, find Virgo in your chart. Look for the house it's in. Then look into the meaning of that house. For example, I took a look at mine and something curious has happened. For decades, I have been told that my ascendant is Libra. And more recently, when I calculated my chart online, I was told it was in Virgo. I don't believe it, but let's just say that's the case, that somehow my rising sign has shifted. I don't know if that's even possible. If you're an astrologer, please leave me a comment and let me know if it's possible. And it might depend on the, I don't know, kind of astrology that is being used to calculate a chart. The ascendant, which is the first house, is all about the self. It's about identity, appearance, and how we express ourselves. So it's about our personality and the way that we show up to others. And I much more relate to the Libra traits than I do to Virgo traits. But like I said, who knows? So for the sake of this discussion, let's say that I have Virgo, and I'm doing this not to talk about myself, but to give it as an example. Let's say that if I do have Virgo in my first house, this could mean a release of myself, a letting go of parts of me that have held me back. And I'm not opposed to that at all. Not at all. In fact, I was thinking the other day, and this will apply to all of you. Have you ever had a realization that you might be trying to live up to the low expectations that a person or certain people have of you? I had this revelation about myself recently, and so I'm ready to kick that monster in the ass and get it out of my life. So if you think you might be doing that, please do the same. It's time for us to shine, okay? I also learned that my Virgo, if it's correct, is in a T-square with Venus and Chiron, so that's intense and explains a lot. But anyway, I'm still going with what I was told for years, that my ascendant is in Libra. So for you, again, check your chart. You can do it online. You can find places to do it for free and see where Virgo lands, see which house it's in, and then look up that house, see what that house governs in your life, in your development, okay? And then use that to inform how that applies to your writing practice. Kelly says that sometimes the first eclipse in a new sequence can hit strongly, which means that you might need to come back and do, like she says, eclipsy things around Virgo topics. So what might that be for you? I would love to know in the comments where your Virgo is. And if you're moved to do so, look up the house and let me know. And if you want help sorting out how that would impact your writing practice, I can help you with that because I don't need to be an astrologer to do that. She also says that this can be true for all of us collectively. So we could all be revisiting things around being hardworking, practical, analytical, reliable, and logical. Okay, leaning toward perfectionism and being really critical. Okay, so being hardworking, practical, analytical, all those things are good, but not if we're not showing ourselves grace and not if we're not showing others grace in our lives who just can't help it because they need us, right? Virgos are super detail oriented, so this eclipse could have us kind of going back and fine-tuning something in our writing practice. So do you have a current project that's basically finished and it's time to go back over it? Maybe it's time to hire a developmental editor, or maybe you're at the stage where you need a line edit or a proofreader. Maybe you've been working on a collection of short stories and it's time to read through them all from beginning to end and see how they flow together or not. So you might find that you need to rearrange them. All right, this really hits home with me because as I've mentioned in a few recent videos, I decided to independently publish my novel, Miranda's Garden. And I just spent a few days rereading the whole thing so I can decide who I need to hire for what and what I want to do or what I can handle myself. And what I found is that it feels really bulky in the middle and there's too much backstory in Act 1. Or it feels out of order in Act 1. So I'll be doing a very Virgo thing, and that is going back through and being very critical of my writing and really using a fine-tooth comb to pare it down once again to make it more streamlined. All right? So I have to say, though, that in rereading it, I really like it. And I think that's important to like our own work. And I hope that you like your work. And I know what it's like to be at a place with it where it's just not coming out. It's like learning a new instrument. And I used to play clarinet when I was a kid. And In the beginning, it makes these awful honks and squeaks. But over time, it becomes very nice to the ear once we master it. So that's what writing is like to me. Okay. So think about that. If you're being hard on yourself, you're just figuring out how to get through this rough spot or figure out how to do what you want to do because there is a way. I am sure of it. If you've conceived of the idea, there is a way to do it. Kelly says that it's been 9 years since we've had any eclipses in Virgo. So you might not be used to this part of your chart being activated or affected. And think back to 9 years. That would have been 2016. What were you doing? I was doing things I did not like. It was not good. I had been living in an artist community, which on the surface sounds kind of cool, right? But it wasn't. So much freaking drama. So much. I was also working as a copywriter at the time and kept that job when I fled the artist community and took a job, get this, managing apartments. I managed 7 buildings and it was awful, absolutely awful. So needless to say, my own writing had taken a complete back seat at the time. No more of that, not for me. And who knows, maybe I will also be going back and I actually am kind of restructuring how I make money these days. So very interesting. So again, think about what was going on with you in 2016 during that rough period, give or take several months, year, and see if there's any resemblance to it. And keep also in mind, this is not about going back over the same territory, right? This is about, think of it more as a spiral. So I use spirals a lot in my novel. And it's about ascension. And so we might come around to the same things in life to recover from them, to revisit them and redo them. But each time we do, it's a step up. And so this is about an ascension. All right. So please don't get disheartened if you think you're facing some of the same things or similar things. You have evolved since 9 years ago, without a doubt. I would also, if it's not too invasive, if you're open to sharing, never any pressure, please, I would love to know in the comments what you were doing 9 years ago. And does it in any way relate to what you're doing right now in a Virgo sort of way? Is there something that you are re-critiquing, reanalyzing? And I mean in a deep way, right? So Kelly reminds us to remember that the most important thing about an eclipse is to know which node it's aligned with. Okay, this full moon is at 23 degrees Virgo. The south node is at 27 Virgo. So they are virtually in the same place. They are only 4 degrees apart. And that's what makes this a total eclipse. That's why when the Earth passes between the sun and the moon, it will eclipse the moon because they line up exactly. And it creates a kind of shadow on the moon. So for this reason, it helps us to also look at South Node themes, which are the following: letting go, clearing out, and emptying out. Okay, so this kind of energy can be said to have a diminishing or reducing qualities. It's about endings, not beginnings. And this may sound somewhat ominous, but endings don't have to be catastrophic, right? They can be a wake-up call of some kind that can lead us to that glorious thing that we've been dreaming about, okay? And it can be about gathering energy to set things straight if we've gotten too disorganized or cluttered. So putting this in a very practical sense. Here's one thing I will be doing during this eclipse cycle. And I do this every year. I'm not doing it just because we're in an eclipse. I do it on the spring equinox. If I'm working for someone, I let them know I am taking these days off. This is a holiday for me. So I'm taking Thursday, Friday off, and then this will also phase into Saturday. So I take 3 days now to do this. When I was younger, I did it in 1 day, but I think that might kill me now. But I do this very thing. I go through my entire living space, every drawer, every closet, every shelf in every closet, and I get very honest with myself about what I need and don't need to keep. And I either give things away or toss them. And then I clean meticulously. I clean along baseboards. I clean all those cupboards and drawers out. And I spritz the air with this lovely rosemary water that I've made. And I smudge and I reset. And so again, as an example, what that could do for me, because my goal is to move this year, especially because of this energy that we're in right now, it could finally happen. I've been wanting to move for a few years now, and it just has not been a possibility. And so I am banking on this year being the one that it does happen. So think about these big things that you have wanted in your life. And if it is focused on your writing, and for me, where I live definitely impacts my writing. And so it is a big deal for me. Think about big things that you have wanted that haven't happened, and think about why they haven't happened yet. And see if you can start to make connections. And especially in your writing practice, how can you make connections and do what it takes to see those things through? Because not only can drawers and cupboards get cluttered, so can writing practices, so can our lives. Taking on too many things, saying yes to too many people, putting your writing last, having a cluttered writing space, right? All of that can impact your writing practice, okay? I feel like I beat that horse to death, so let's move on. All right, despite this all being related to analytical, practical Virgo with the South Node involved, it's very subjective, okay? So expect to be operating from an emotional place, a tender place even. You might find yourself more sensitive, more reactive, more affected by things. Whenever I hear this, I think, oh shit, here we go, because I am that way all the time anyway. And so no more is needed. But, I'm a Cancer and we do emotions well. So I guess, I'm always saying, bring it on. I can do it. Kelly has a suggestion that I always stand by no matter what's going on up above. And that is, if you find yourself falling into an old trap, bring your awareness into your body. Bring your body wisdom to move that energy, okay? Here's how to do it. If you get stuck in your writing, if you feel anxious about being stuck, sit quietly and locate where you feel the stickiness within you. Locate it. Focus on it, breathe into it, and imagine it growing. It won't overcome you, I promise. I learned this trick from a therapist. And she told me that when we experience a feeling, the body can only maintain it for about 10 minutes. What we typically do when we feel a big, big feeling is we try to tamp it down because it scares us. It feels like too much. But the cool thing is, so by embracing it and imagining it and expanding it, we're helping it move on through us. Whereas when we stuff it, it keeps bobbing back up to the surface and giving us trouble, right? So this can come in handy because Kelly says this kind of total South Node eclipse can reduce our vitality and our mental clarity and our calm of the mind. So that's why I said lots and lots of grace and self-care. The eclipse needs to be treated with tenderness. We need to treat ourselves with tenderness. So I want to say this. I'm always encouraging you to write and maintain this writing practice. That is like clockwork. And I mentioned it in a very recent video about Haruki Murakami and his writing practice and the regimen that he swears by that creates this kind of mesmerism in his mind. And I do stand by that. We do need that. However, we are humans. And we ebb and flow. We are made mostly of water. The ocean ebbs and flows. The moon causes that. If it can make the ocean do that, think what it's doing to us. So when we have a moon like this, we need to shift our mindset a little bit, and we can't be in these rigid states of mind at all times. So show yourself grace, like I said, be kind to yourself, and remember that having a writing practice is not always about getting words on the page. If you sit down and do some research, if you sit down and work on something else other than your novel or your short story collection, if you start a new story, all of that works. It just keeps you plugged into your creative self. All right? Kelly also says, and of course, we can't control everything in the whole wide world. So take this with a, small, medium, grain of salt. No big social events during this time. No important work events. No big family things. Reduce and stay calm and quiet. Schedule important duties before or after the 13th. So give yourself like a 3-day window if you can around this full moon. I'm not talking 2 years or to the end of April, talking just a couple of days, all right? So don't expect a lot from yourself. Opt for rest, treat your body gently, eat good food, and read books that feed your mind rather than consuming screens. And I went through a period where I was really deep into crime shows. Like I devoured them, and it affected my mental health. I didn't realize it was while I was watching them. But one day I'd ask myself, why am I so freaking dark and down and hating life? And then I thought, oh, maybe watch something else or maybe read a freaking book, right? So during this, at least this 2 to 3 day period around this full moon, do those things. Be kind to your brain and your heart and your soul. Okay. The moon has to do with the body, with health and vitality. So this is why these things are being reduced and may feel somewhat drained because the moon is so close to the South Node. And all those emotions, Again, right? Feeling emotions takes a lot of energy. So just honor them, let them happen. And if this helps you, pour them into your writing practice. Mercury will be at 9 degrees of Aries. So Aries is a sign of self and vitality. However, Mercury is about to go retrograde on the 15th. All right. So we have these 3 days of this intense full moon, and then Mercury goes, nah, I'm going to go backwards for a while, or appear to go backwards, right? It doesn't actually spin backwards. So the ruler of the eclipse is in a holding pattern, about to go retrograde, changing direction, or appearing to. In the Mercury retrograde book, Boland and Farnell say that when Mercury goes retrograde in a fire sign, it can give this feeling of kind of being on fire over something, okay? And they caution that it's helpful with this energy to keep asking, is this really what I want? This might feel like, excuse my language for those of you who are cringy about that, this might feel like a mind fuck of sorts, okay? Because Aries makes us feel like on fire about something, like I'm going to kick this in the ass, I'm going to take care of this, but it's going retrograde. So there's that. And then there's all this wobbly full moon energy. So again, prepare to feel uncertain about things. And as Kelly said, be sure to ask yourself, is this really what I want? Whatever that may be, especially in your writing practice, because that's why I'm here. All right. One thing they say about the upside of Mercury retrograde in Aries is that we all get a second chance to give something another try. Maybe something we thought about trying or something we tried in the past that didn't work. Now is a good time to give it a second chance. So it's a second chance to be gutsy about something. Okay. And I like that. Like I'm ready to do that. Where are you in your writing practice that you might let yourself be gutsy? Do you want to write that erotic short story? I did a video on that recently. And like I said in that, you can always use a pen name if you don't want your friends and family knowing that you wrote it. You might decide for the first time to submit your work to a publication, even a short story or a poem or something. You might, for the first time, share the first draft of your entire novel. That's a pretty gutsy thing to do. Use this time to really tune in and gather your steam and courage and listen carefully to yourself and plan. Focus more on yourself than other people. And again, to clarify, don't neglect people who need your help, who are not capable of fending for themselves, but really tune into yourself and what you want for your novel, for your writing practice, for your life as a writer. And don't listen to others, at least right now, okay? Even me. If I say something that doesn't hit right, just say no thank you and move on. Here's another way to look at this. Kelly says that in medieval astrology, a planet that was preparing to go retrograde was described as a sick person taking to their bed. So this eclipse that already reduces our energy and vitality, possibly our health. So take care of yourself in all ways. Shore up your vitality. Eat well, like I said, get rest, drink water. Water can heal so many things. And protect yourself from environments, elements, and people that your body is sensitive to. So do you have a friend, for example, who is always, every time you're excited about something, has to throw in one little negative tidbit about, oh, that's really expensive. Oh, that sounds like a lot of work. All the while they're smiling. Like, if you can, stay away from that. I say all the time, but do what you want to do. I do not allow those people in my life, but especially during this sensitive time that we're in. Keep yourself away from that. If strong scents make you sick, foods that make you sick, all of it. One way to think about this is as a turning to the past. And in terms of your writing, again, what can you revisit? What can you redo? So like I said, with my novel, I'm looking backward for a few weeks here, refining my novel once again, making it less choppy in the beginning, less bloated in the middle. And I'm doing this because I know how, and it will save me from needing to hire someone to do a full developmental edit. So this is a time to go backward so that we can go forward, all right? Sometimes we just need to do that because progress is not always a straight line. It's a time to clear some clutter, as I said, whether it's physical, emotional, or mental, or literal in our homes, in our schedules, with our energy, and in our writing. So think about every facet of your life. Where is there clutter and noise that you just don't need, that could be harming you, that's holding you back? It's a pause of sorts or a full stop to prepare to blast forward soon. Avoid new decisions during this time and new offerings, or avoid making decisions about things that have been lingering, okay? Something needs to be sorted out here. All right, you might find that something you were interested in before holds no interest for you now, okay? And this new feeling, it might stick, you might never be interested in it again, or the interest might come back. We don't know. Questioning in this way, pausing to see what unfolds, might help you release something that has been in your way. Think about what's driving you and ask yourself, is this still important? Whatever this might be for you. If you're working on a project that feels stalled out, but it's still important to you, give it time. Creative process is an ebb and flow. And when we find our sweet spot in that ebb and flow, that's when we're able to keep moving forward and loving all of it, even when we're stuck or writing in a way that doesn't measure up to our own vision, right? You might get clear about where things are inefficient, where you're wasting time and energy. If something isn't working for you, you can always get rid of it or let it sit and come back, right? That's a far better way to make progress than trying to force something. And Kelly says something I really like. She says that if you do find yourself getting rid of something, like the way I'm getting rid of words in my novel, and ugh, does that hurt to think about? It really does. She says to see what emerges from the spaciousness that it leaves behind. And I love thinking about it this way. So if you can look forward in that way, think about, if I clear up this clutter, what kind of spaciousness is going to be left behind? And how is that going to help my writing and my writing life? Okay? On the eclipse, do the absolute basics. Give it 24 hours, or really those 3 days, 24 hours on either side, and then use the 2 weeks following to declutter and really lean into that Mercury retrograde to help you do that. All right, lovely writers, that is it for this video. That was a lot. Thank you for sticking around. As always, sending you mad writing mojo. Happy writing.